Hey, I'm Blocks, and today I'll show you how to make the best Piggy type game on Roblox, easily and quickly.
Man, I wonder how I can make a Piggy game. Oh, I know just the guy. Alright, we're just gonna go on over to the YouTubes. Alvin Blocks. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Let me just find the right video here. Alright, how to make a Piggy game on Roblox. Yeah, this should be good. This should be good.
On my channel, I've taught hundreds of thousands of people how to make Roblox games, so you've come to the right place. I'm also officially recognised as a featured educator by Roblox, so with my videos, you'll be able to make your own games and even make Robux from them. So if you're interested in that, please click the subscribe button below. It really does help my channel grow and it motivates me to continue making this content. There's more to this than what meets the eye when it comes to creating these videos. I've worked all day, every day, for a whole week to create this Piggy game, testing it for over 10 hours to make sure that you get the best experience from this video. And as an added bonus, I've created a Piggy Kit for you to use so that we can speed up the time it takes for you to make your Piggy game. This Piggy Kit will give you a map, Piggy Character, scripts for making the doors work, as well as the keys which will unlock them. On top of that, you'll also get a lobby and a menu GUI to use, as well as some other things which we'll go over later. All I ask is that you subscribe to my channel in return for using this model. This kit isn't the full game. You're going to need to watch the whole video to learn how to use it and to add more to it, as this kit doesn't contain the vital game scripts which are needed to make the game work, and that's what we will be making in this video. So think of it as a head start. I'll also be making separate videos and linking to them from this video if you want to learn how to make the things in the kit for yourself from scratch. If you want access to the finished project for yourself with all of the scripts inside, then you can become a premium channel member for $4.99 a month. That way, you'll have exclusive access to my project file, which will contain the finished product, all scripts included and fully working. Not only that, you'll also get the code from my other video tutorials and more exclusive perks, which you'll be able to see on the screen now, including a badge icon next to your comments. So just click the join button underneath the video, next to the subscribe button, or you can go to the link in the description. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. So firstly, you're going to want to go and take the Piggy Kit. So head to the description of the video, click on show more, and then go to the link here where it says Piggy Kit. That will take you to this free model. So make sure you click on get and take the model for free. It won't cost you anything. When you've done that, you're going to want to open up Roblox Studio. If you haven't already installed Roblox Studio, firstly just check your computer by searching to see if it's already there, because it could have already been installed when you first played Roblox, you just wouldn't know about it. So I'm going to search for Roblox Studio, and here it is. So just click it to open it up. And it may prompt you to log in for the first time if you haven't used it before, so just go ahead and log in with your usual Roblox account details. It's totally safe because it's created by Roblox. And if you see something pop up about an autosave file, just press ignore. That is not important to us for now. What you're going to want to do though is click on new over here and then click on base plate. That's going to give us a nice blank area to create our Piggy game because we don't need any of these templates. Now, your Roblox Studio might look a little bit different to mine. That's because I've got some different panels open up and I'm using the dark theme, but I'm just going to show you how you can set yours up correctly. So if you don't see these panels, the Explorer and Properties window, go to the View tab up top and then click on Explorer and Properties, and they should show up here. Explorer and Properties are the two main windows that we will be using. We don't need to use the output for now. Once you've done that, let's go ahead and insert our Piggy Kit, which we've just taken as a free model. Head to the toolbox in the Home tab, and then click on the grid here of the four little squares. This will be your inventory. And then make sure that you've selected my models at the top here. You should see my Piggy Kit, which you've just taken. If you don't see it there, make sure that you've actually taken the model and you've clicked the get button so that it's in your inventory. So click it, and that will insert the Piggy Kit into your game. Now remember, this is not the full game, and you need to keep watching the rest of the video to learn how to make the Piggy game work, because we've still got some scripting to do. This is just like a head start so that we can cut out the boring bits and the things like designing of the map, for example. But what we need to do is we need to put all of our different objects into the right places, because currently they're all in the workspace and we don't want them to be here. So we're going to open up the model, we're going to click on this little arrow here, and it's going to open up all of these different objects inside, and it's telling us to ungroup these different models in certain services. So, for example, the replicated storage, starter GUI, workspace. So we're going to drag each model to the place it's telling us to put them in. So, for example, this one here is telling us to ungroup in the workspace. So firstly, we're going to just drag it into the workspace here. Then we're going to right click and click on ungroup. Make sure you click on ungroup and not select children. Ungroup. So you can press ungroup there, or press Control U or Command U if you're on a Mac. And you'll see that these 3 selected models are now in the workspace. Now I'm just going to drag all of the other models here into their areas. So we're just going to leave this one here, this first one. We'll get to that in a minute because it's to do with our game logic, which we haven't set up yet. But this one is for starter GUI, so we're going to drag that one down into the starter GUI service. And we're going to see this GUI appear, that's alright. Just right click and click ungroup, and then just delete this warning GUI. This is just a GUI for those that aren't watching the video to tell them to come and watch it, which you should be doing right now. So I'm going to delete this GUI, and it's gone away. Then I'm going to go and take the 5th model, and it's going to say ungroup in server storage. So I'm going to put it in server storage, right click and ungroup. And we've got some objects in there as well. Next one is replicated storage, so we can drag that one in there, and right click and ungroup. And by the way, the order that you do this in doesn't matter as long as you just ungroup everything in the right places. Then we've got the stun script, and we've got to put that into server script service. And finally, this one here, the ungroup in your game logic script. So we actually need to create that script. So we're going to click on the little plus here next to server script service, insert a script, and we're going to call this script game space logic. It's very important that you call it game logic so that we know what each script does. And I'm going to drag this model into the game logic script, right click and click ungroup. Okay, this is one of our modules, the door module, and it handles the doors which will be able to swing, and also for when the keys which the player will pick up, when they touch the door, we can open and close it. So there we go. We have just put all of our objects from the Piggy Kit into the correct places. What you can now do is you can read this script if you want. It's only for those though that haven't started watching the video, if they just take the model, so it's not important to us. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm also going to delete the thumbnail camera, and we can delete the main model because we no longer need it. Whilst I'm at it, I'm going to delete the base plate because we don't need it. So now we have all of our objects needed for our Piggy game inserted into the game. I'm going to walk you through what each of them do. So firstly, in the workspace, we've got our lobby. This is just a simple model containing parts, and inside of it, we've got a folder called spawns. Inside of here, we've got a load of spawn location objects, and this is where the players are going to respawn if they die. Now, if you're creating your own lobby, it's really important that you have a folder in that lobby model called spawns with all of your spawn locations in here, okay? And they also need to be spawn location objects, so you can insert them by going to model and spawn. But just make sure that you've put them inside that spawns folder and that your lobby is called lobby, okay? Your lobby model. And it's all grouped together like this, okay? Next, we have intro tunnel. Now, the intro tunnel is just a model of, it's a little setup where the camera will look when you first join the game, and we can have a Piggy character here if you wanted, and it's what the camera's going to look at when you're in the main menu. We're not going to be dealing with this until later on, so I'm just going to leave it here for now. And of course, you can create your own, as long as you've got 2 parts, a camera face and a camera origin, and this is going to tell our camera where to look at. But again, we won't be working on this until later on, so don't worry about it. And then over here, we have a waiting room, and this is where the Piggy will get teleported to when they first get chosen. So it just has, it's a blank white room with 2 things on the walls, 2 pieces of text telling the Piggy that they just need to wait, and that when they're released, what they have to do. So then, moving on to the replicated storage, we've got a folder in here called chapters. And if you don't know Piggy, each map in Piggy is called a chapter. So you have like chapter 1, chapter 2, and at the start of each round, a different chapter is chosen. So if you do make a map, then you're going to want to put your map your map models in this chapters folder, okay? So if you wanted to make a new map, you would just create it in the workspace and then drag it into the chapters folder, okay? Really important that you do have that chapters folder and that all of the chapters are inside of it. Moving on to server storage now, and we have two folders, key handles and tools. Now, the tools folder has all of the different tools that you will need in the game, such as the keys to open the doors, a crossbow that can kill the piggy, the green keys that can unlock the door just as the other coloured keys, red key, purple key, orange key, for example. We've got a hammer which can break wooden blocks, the piggy bat, obviously, which can kill players, the white key which will be needed to escape, and things like the wood plank which can bridge the gap between the two different floors, and also the wrench to turn certain things like electrical generators on or off. We've also got key handles, and the key handles are the parts which look like the tools, which will be in the map. So when you click on them, you'll be able to equip the tool. We'll get onto that later on. And then we also have a model called Piggy here, and this is the Piggy character. Let's just drag it into workspace so I can show you what it looks like. So your generic Piggy character, and that's what we will be using that later on when we actually set the player's character to look like the piggy. So we'll keep that in server storage. We also have a bear trap, which is the default mesh for a trap that the piggy will be able to place. We need to script that. And let's just move that back into server storage. And we also have a hitbox, and I'll be explaining more what that does later on. It's a transparent part which will be attached to a player so that it's easier for the piggy to click a player. So we're going to put that in server storage. Now, our GUIs, we have a stamina script which will stop you from spam jumping, so that after a couple of jumps you won't be able to jump for a couple of seconds. It just makes it easier for the piggy to kill you. Now, I did not create this script. It was created by Gaming Guy 88, and he posted it on the Roblox dev forum. So this script isn't essential to the game. It's just an added feature. Then we have the Bat GUI. It's currently disabled, but if we enable it in the Properties tab, you'll see that this just appears when you equip the bat, telling the piggy that they need to tap a character or click them within 8 studs to be able to kill them. We then have the main GUI, and this is currently enabled, but the frames inside are disabled. And we've got a black frame, which will appear when you die, and it covers the entire screen. And we've got an intro as well. And if we make this visible, you'll be able to see that this is the intro screen, which appears when you start the game. We then have a crouch button, which when I enable it here looks like this, and it will just tell the player that they can press control or tap to crouch. We'll be looking into the crouch stuff later on. And we also have an announcement for when you escaped, a kill feed which will appear when somebody gets killed, and also a top status bar which will have the game updates, such as when the intermission is occurring, or it will tell us how many seconds are left in the game. Okay, then in the server script service, this is the most important part. So we've got a stun script, which we won't be focusing on yet, but that's for the crossbow. When you fire it at the piggy, then they will be stunned for a number of seconds and they can't move, so we don't need to worry about that. But the most important script which we will be working with today is the game logic script. And this script is where we're going to control the actual game and the round itself. We're going to script everything to do with the round, teleporting everybody, choosing who's the piggy, choosing the map, detecting when people have escaped, detecting when somebody's been killed, ending the round, all of that good stuff. And that's what we're going to be looking at today in this game logic script. Now, what we will be using is module scripts, and we'll be explaining that more in just a little while. But the game logic will basically do everything to do with the rounds, because currently, if we play this game, it won't do anything. If you just put this Piggy Kit into your game and you try and play it, you will not be able to play the game, okay? There will be a lot of errors in the output, and that is because we haven't scripted our things yet, and also because the Piggy Kit is relying on certain scripts which we haven't created yet, basically. So that's why you need to watch the video so that you can learn how to code this game, okay? So don't go anywhere, keep watching, because this is going to be awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a module script inside of this game logic script. Now, we've already got one for the doors, but we're also going to have another one for all of the round stuff, so for managing the round. So I'm going to look for a module script, and I'm going to name this module script round script. A round module, sorry. Now, a module script contains code which can be executed from another script. It's just an organized way of having all of your code stored in blocks called functions, which we can then call from another script. This way, you don't have all of your code stored in one big script, which makes it shorter, and that way you can call different functions to run different blocks of code at different times for different things. For example, you could have a function to count down your intermission in a module script, and that function could be 5 to 10 lines long. You would then call that function from your game logic script with only one line of code. Of course, you could have all of the functions stored in your game logic script without any modules, but this way it's just more organized and better practice to use module scripts. The module script code is actually running in your game logic script. It's actually just stored in the module script, but it's being retrieved and executed by the game logic script. So think of it like an instruction manual for something. The instructions are actually stored in the manual. We have to get the manual to read them, but it's actually us who are following and doing the instructions. The instruction manual isn't carrying out the instructions for us. What happens in the module script is all of the functions are added to a table called module, and then we return that table, or that module, that table back to the game logic script. But how does it know where to return it back to? Well, that's because we have to require the module. So, in our game logic script, we're going to say local round equals require, and then in brackets, or parentheses, we're going to say script dot round module. Okay, because the round module is inside of the script, we just say script to get the current script dot round module. Okay, so now that we've required it, we are in control of the module. So what happens is the module will return all of the functions which we haven't yet declared or written out. All of the functions though will be inside this module table, so we have access to run them from this game logic script. So don't worry if you are a little bit confused, we'll still be going over this whilst we keep coding the game. Now, for our intermission, we want to show text on the screen to tell people when the next game will start. So to do that, we need to insert a status value. I have done a video on how to make a status bar, so if you don't understand this, you can check it out by going to the video in the top right corner of the screen. I'll also link it in the description. What it requires is having a value stored in the replicated storage, a string value, and I'm going to call this value status. And that way we can update this value, we can give it a value from the game logic script, and then our GUIs can show the value of this status object as a text label, so it will appear on the screen. Whatever the value property of this status object is will appear on the screen, and that's what we'll get into coding on the client later on. But all we need to do to set a message is to change the value of this status object. So in the round module, we're going to create our first function. So to do that, it's very, very easy. We just need to say function module, and then we give it a name. So we have to say module first to tell it that it's part of this table that we want to send back to our game logic script. So function module, and I'm just going to call it intermission with a capital I. Okay, like this. So for module.intermission, and then we're going to have a pair of parentheses, and then we're going to drop a line. Now inside of here, all that we need to do is we need to do a countdown. So we're going to use a for loop for that. So for I equals, and then we supply 3 numbers, so the value we want to count down from. So let's just say 30, for example. And then the second number is the value that we want to stop at, so when we get to 0. And then the third value is the how much it will decrease by every second, so -1. Then we're going to say do, and then drop a line, and it will add this end for us. And then we can do a wait 1, because we want to wait 1 second before it moves on. Wait 1 second 30 times, and then you've been waiting for 30 seconds. Then what we need to do is we need to update the value of this status. So let's create a variable for that status, because I'm sure we'll be constantly using it. So local status, and that is going to be equal to game.replicated storage, wait for child, status. Okay, because we've got this status value in the replicated storage, and we're using wait for child just to wait until it has been added into the game, in case it's added a little bit late and it's not there by the time that this script is looking for it. So we're just waiting until it's there. Then we can say status.value equals, and then we can do a string, which is just some text in speech marks saying next round starts in, and then space, and then dot dot I dot dot, and then in speech marks again, seconds, like this. And the dot dot I is inserting the I value, and the I value is going to be that countdown. So it's going to be the number of seconds. So it's going to count down from 30 down to 0. It's going to decrease by 1 every second. And then when we say dot dot, we are basically combining this text with a variable, and this variable is our I value. So it's going to tell us how many seconds until the next round starts. And what if we wanted to have a custom length though, that we so if we were to call this intermission, all we'd need to now do from our game logic script is say round.intermission. So what that would do is it would start the intermission for us, okay? But what if we wanted to tell the round module how many seconds we want the intermission to last for from where we call it, from here? So if I wanted to say 5 seconds, well, what we'd need to do is we need to firstly put that number inside the brackets, and then in the round module, we would just create an argument. So this is kind of like a variable, and it's just going to be the number of seconds that we've passed to it. So we're going to call it length. Then we can change the 30 to be the length. So because we have passed a number in these brackets, it's going to send that to the function when it starts, and length is now going to be 5. So it will count down from 5. But instead of having to change it in here, we can just always have length. So we could have different intermissions if we wanted to. If we wanted to do an intermission after that, you could do one for 15 seconds. So it's just a quicker way of us being able to pass how long we want to wait for in here. And that's an argument. If you want to learn more about functions and arguments, I have got a video on that, which you can check out in the top right corner of the screen or in the description. So that's our intermission done. And if we were to go and check it out in game, you would see that the replicated storage value would be counting down from 5. Now let's make it a little bit longer. I'm going to make it 30 seconds. I'm going to play the game, and I'm going to show you this happening in action. So if you go into replicated storage and you click on status and you open up the properties, it will say next round starts in 16, 15, 14, 13, and it's counting down every single second from that 25, which is awesome. So we know that's working, and that's good. And you can also see that it's now appearing magically in our GUI. Well, how has it done that? Well, that's because in the Piggy Kit, I went over adding this status bar and the client scripting. If you went into client main, you would see that we've got a get property changed signal on the status. So replicated storage, wait for child status. When the value changes, just change the top status's text to the status's value, which I also went over in the status bar video, which I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. The next thing we want to do is insert the map, don't we? We want to choose a random map from the chapters folder and insert it into the game. So let's head back to our round module script, and we're going to create another function, and this function is going to select a random map. Now I've gone ahead and already created our second function, module.selectChapter, as I'm sure you'll be able to know how to make functions now. And inside of here, we're going to firstly create a random seed, and that's going to help us generate a random map. So we're going to say local rand, just a variable, and it's going to create our new seed, random.new. And that is kind of like when you put a seed for map generation. So for example, in Minecraft, you generated a new seed, kind of like that. It's just generating a bunch of random numbers for us. Next, I'm going to create a variable for all of our chapters. So we can say game.replicatedStorage.chapters, that chapters folder, :getChildren. And when we say get children, it's going to give us a table of all of the chapters, or all of the objects inside that folder. So it's going to give us a table of all the map models, basically. And then we need to pick a random chapter out of that table, a random map object out of that table. If you do want to learn more about tables and how they work, I've got a video on tables. I'll leave it in the description down below and in the card as well. So now to pick a random chapter, we can just say, we can create a variable for the one that's going to be chosen, local chosen chapter, equals chapters, because that's our folder, and then a pair of square brackets tells us that we want to pick one of them out. So we pick it out by giving it a number, because they all have an index, every map, between 1 and however many there are. So if there's 10, they're all going to be numbered 1 to 10, and if you choose a random number, such as 6, it's going to pick the 6th one out. So to do that, we just need to then select a number between 1 and however many there are. So we say rand, because that's our random seed, colon, next integer, and that will select a random number. So integer, integer, and then inside of there, we give our first number that's going to be between, it's going to be between 1, and then comma, and hashtag chapters. When you say hashtag and the table name, it will basically give you the number of items in that table. So if there's 5, hashtag chapters will be 5. So it's going to pick a random number between 1 and 5, and pick that chosen chapter out. Then, we need to send that chapter map object back to our game logic script. So we can say return chosen chapter, and that will send that back to the game logic script. So if we then said round.select chapter and put our pair of brackets after that, what we need to do is we need to set it as a variable. So local chosen chapter equals round.select chapter, and when that returns the chosen map back, chosen chapter will then be equal to it will be the map object itself, so we can manipulate it. So this map here that we've just chosen is actually the one that's still in replicated storage. We don't want to move it out, we just want to create a clone of it. Okay, so we're going to say, look, we're going to create a clone of it. So we're going to say local cloned chapter equals chosen chapter. We're going to take that chosen map and we're going to make a clone of it by saying colon clone, okay, with a capital C. Then we're going to say cloned chapter. We're going to change its name. Say clone chapter.name equals map. The reason for this is because they've all got different names. We could have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but we want to insert it into the workspace and we want to call it map. And when we do that, then from other scripts, which may not know the name of the map that was chosen, we can just identify the map by calling it map. And then from other scripts, if you want to get the map, we can say game.workspace.map. And the reason we've cloned it is because we don't want to change the maps in replicated storage, because they're going to get chosen in the next round. We don't want to mess them up. So we're going to say cloned chapter.parent equals game.workspace. We're just going to put it in the workspace. When it's in the workspace, we can see it, and we can teleport everybody into the map. And if you go and test the game, when the intermission gets to 0, if we head into server mode by clicking on current client and changing it to server, and you move around, you should see that the map has now been inserted into the game, which it has. So that's good. We know that that worked perfectly. Next, we're going to choose a random player to become the piggy. So we're going to create a table called local contestants, and it's going to be equal to a blank table like this. Then we're going to loop through all of the players in the game, and we're going to insert those who aren't in the menu into this table called contestants. Now, how do we know if a player is in the menu or not? Well, when they first spawn into the game, we're going to insert a value into their player. Think of it like a tag, so that we can loop through all of the players in the game, and if they do have that tag, then we'll know that they're in the menu. But when they click the menu play button, we can remove that tag. Okay, so we basically have a way of telling if they're in the menu or not, and that way we will have the players that are not AFK in the round, so that nobody is AFK and delaying the round. So to do that, we're going to have to insert another script into the game. Now we're going to click on Serve Script Service, and we're going to insert a script. This script, however, I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it Event Handling. It's going to handle all of our remote events in the future, as well as the events when a player first joins the game. So inside of here, it's very, very easy. We're going to say, we're going to do an event for when the player first joins the game. So inside of this script, very, very simple, we've got a player added event, and this event is going to run when a player first joins the game, and the player argument here is going to be the player that does join, so whatever we do to player will be done to the player that joins. And so what we'll do is going to insert, using instance.new, a ball value. It doesn't matter really about what type of value it is, it's just a tag. But this ball value, we're going to give it a name, call it in menu, and I'm going to put it inside the player. So when we join the game, if you look inside players, Alvin Blocks, or your player, you'll see that you've got this in menu. And when we press play, what we're going to do is we're going to create a remote event that will destroy this value. As I said, we'll know that you are ready to play when that value's been destroyed. Because if you haven't got the in-menu value stored in your player, we'll know that you're not in the menu and we'll know that you're ready to play. Now, because you're only out of the menu when you press play on the GUI, the GUI is actually stored on the client on your computer. And when we want to change something, when you do something on the client, so just clicking a button, we have to use remote events so that we can trigger the remote event from the GUI on the client, and then we can pick it up on the server, because all of our code, such as the event handling, is stored on the server, which is owned by Roblox, and we communicate over the internet, because the client and the GUIs are stored on your computer, and the server can't tell when you've clicked a button, which is why we have to use remote events to tell the server code when we've done something. So in this case, we are going to do a remote event and fire it when you click on the play button, so that we're on the server, we can pick it up and remove that in-menu value from your player. So again, very simple, just click on the replicated storage, click on the plus, and insert a remote event. This remote event, I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it menu play, because it's going to be fired when you press play on the menu. Then, inside the event handling script, we're going to create another event, which will pick this up, and then code will be able to run on the server when this remote event is triggered. So, game.replicatedStorage.menuPlay.onServerEvent, because when it's event that's been fired to the server from the client, :connect, a function, and we've got an end with a bracket added here. Now, we need to know on the server which player has fired this event, which player has clicked the menu. So we have an argument which is automatically sent over called player, okay? And you will see inside of the client main local script, which came in the menu, the main GUI, which was in the Piggy Kit, you will see that when you press the intro play button, we've got this event here which fires when you click the play button. It will actually fire that remote event, so we've already done that. So it's been fired, and we're now handling it on the server, okay? So what we're going to do is firstly just going to check if the player has that in-menu value inside of them. So if player : find first child in menu, and when we say find first child, it's because in case it's not there, if we were to just say if player.inMenu, then it would cause an error if it wasn't there. So find first child will look for the thing that you want to find, so in this case the in menu, but if it's not there, it won't throw an error. So it's just a better way of looking for things. So if they have got the menu value in them, then we know that they do have it, so we can say player.inMenu : destroy, and it's going to remove it. So when we then check in the round module for all players without the in menu tag, then we can add them to that table. So what we've done now, if we play the game again, is we've just created a value that gets put into players when they first join, when they're in the menu, but then when they click on the menu play button, let's look in our player, here we go, we have the in menu value, but when we press the play button, look closely, it's gone, it gets deleted because we fired that remote event and then the server has deleted it for us. So we can now be counted as an active player who isn't AFK because we've clicked the play button. So what we can now do is go back to the game logic script, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop through every single player in the game. So what we're going to say is a for loop. So if you haven't seen for loops before, it basically allows us to loop through a table. In this case, we're looping through every single player in the game, and for every single player, the player is represented as V, and it's going to loop through every player in the game. So if the player does not have that in menu in them, because we've got the not here, which inverts it. So if the player does not have in menu in their character or in their player object, then we're going to insert that player, their player object, into the contestants table. And now, after that for loop is finished running, our contestants table should be full up of all of the players that are ready to play. So it could look something like this. So we've got 3 players, player objects, not names, because it's actual objects in game.players. So Alvin Blocks, Shadletsky, and Nako88. They are our 3 players, for example, that are in the game. So that's the end of the first video. Now you can go straight to the next one by clicking the thumbnail in the middle of your screen, and that's recommended so that you can just carry on where you left off, and we will be creating that function where we choose the piggy, and then we'll be creating the rest of the game loop. So I'll see you in the second part. Just jump straight into it by clicking the thumbnail.